Hey, what is up, guys? My name is Mark Flood. I'm the CEO of Disrupt Gaming. I had a friend reach out to me in regards to his new product, and he wanted to know if gaming would be a good spot for him to market his product. I ended up writing him a very long email and afterwards thought that this information might be helpful for anyone trying to use gaming and or esports to market their product. So with that being said, we will dive into it here. First thing I want to say is that esports is a hot buzzword right now. However, it is important to remember that esports is simply a subcategory of the wider gaming demographic. For the purposes of this conversation, I'm pretty much talking about gaming as a whole, mainly because the same ways that you would use esports, it funnels down. So it's very similar anyway. Something to keep in mind. But as we get started in this, a lot of these things that we'll talk about are just general marketing principles. So you probably already know a lot of these things, but they're particularly important to keep in mind in the gaming space because of this community. We've seen time and time again, brands come in with a bad tone and they just get massacred in the court of public opinion. It's not like the whole brand falls out or they've lost all their opportunity. It's just not starting off on the right foot. So this will help you start off on the right foot and hopefully avoid a poor start. So right off the bat, you should note that it will be difficult for your brand to just lightly get into gaming. It does require man hours. It does require money. It does require effort and thought and consideration. I'll talk about how you can test things before you heavily invest, but just keep in mind that you will get out of it what you put into it. The gaming demographic and esports demographic is very appreciative of brands that add value to the space outside of just their product offering. So when it comes to your actual product, I don't want this to sound rude, and I'm sure your product is amazing, but it is super duper unlikely that your product is going to win in the gaming space just based on its features. It's very difficult to do. It's probably not going to happen. I've talked to a couple brands, and their take on their product is that once people realize the benefits of this product, it will just take off. And that's just not the case for the vast majority of companies. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, when your product gets into the hand of a user, it's unlikely that their hair starts blowing backwards and they scream about how amazing the product was and then go tell all of their friends about it. It's unlikely to happen. So be prepared to invest in brand, invest in stories, invest in content, because that's how you will win over the long term. And I'll talk about some brands that have done that well to validate that point. Tied to that, and getting right into the next point, when you're activating in esports and gaming, it's going to be heavily digital. A lot of it's going to occur on social media. Yes, you are going to have opportunities to activate at in-person events, but the vast majority of your day-to-day will occur on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, on email. It's going to be hugely digital. So remember that the best way to get a positive brand impression and increase the likelihood that someone actually buys your product is to provide valuable content. Do not, I repeat, do not post direct product buy asks on your social media channels. If you're a chair company, don't post pictures of your chair saying that you have a sale. If you are a drink company, don't post pictures of your product telling people that it's now online and to buy it. When I say never, I mean don't do it like any more than 1 out of every 100 posts or something like that. You can do it sometimes. Add value in your content. So if I were, let's say hypothetically, I was an eyeglass company that gave you protection from the blue light from the computer screen, I would create tons of helpful content. How to help people get their sleep schedule better, how to get better sleep, how to avoid eye strain, how to do all these different things that are helpful. I would, of course, include my product in there every time or two in an article or in a video, have it placed there, but I'm not overtly asking someone to buy the product. If someone is consuming your content and you're an eyeglass company and you've helped them improve their sleep, how much more likely do you think that person is to buy your product? A lot, like way more likely. So adding value in your content is really, really important. Value can be entertainment. It can be helpful. It can be motivation. It can be a combination. It can probably be other things too. Intent is really, really important here. People can sense intent. And if you're genuinely trying to help or be entertaining or just generally trying to add value, that will resonate in everything you're doing. So that really needs to be a top-down directive, and it'll come through. Finally, if you're wanting to really go after the gaming space and you don't have the capacity to create additional content on top of what you're already creating, then you're going to need to outsource that. Unless your entire brand and company is in gaming, in which case that's all your content is going to be about anyway, then you're not going to want to reduce content geared towards some other vertical and then supplement it with gaming. You're going to keep both going. So you're going to need to add additional. So if you don't have the capacity to do that, heavily consider outsourcing it. And I'll tell you a little bit about how you can do that or options there here in a bit. Okay, so those are kind of the basics. What is the actual action plan here if you've got a brand and you're wondering how to get it involved in the space? Well, one of the first things you can do, and this is where I mentioned earlier that you do have some options to test, is that I would run a few paid ads on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever, doesn't really matter the platform. I would target a lookalike audience based on the demographic that I'm seeking. So keep in mind that every game and audience in gaming is going to have a slightly different demographic traits. So if my product was geared towards young people, I might run a small ad campaign geared towards a Fortnite creator and use the lookalike audience, right? Because I know that audience is somewhat younger, 15 and younger. If I wanted a little bit older audience, maybe I'd target a Rainbow Six Siege creator, right? That's going to be 17, 18 plus, more likely. So that's what I would do. I would run a little campaign, and you're not looking to spend a ton of money here. What you're looking for is any outsized data point that suggests gaming is going to be a better place for you to sell than some other category or vertical. It doesn't take a lot to get a hint for that. So that's what you're going to be looking for. And it doesn't have to be that much more. It can even be the same, right? Because we're trying to figure out if this is worth it for you to go into. So if you're selling a ton and to I don't know, you're targeting lawyers and they're buying it, and then you test it in gaming and it doesn't look that, I mean, don't go into gaming, right? You're making tons of money, focus on what's working. But that's what you're looking for. So you can do that. You don't have to spend a ton of money. It's a good way to test. So then the next thing is if you actually get some resonation. Is that a word? I don't think that's a word. But if you actually get some positive signs, or at least on par with your other segments, then the next thing I'd recommend doing is sending out samples. Send out as many as you can reasonably afford, 20, 30, 40, 50, to influencers in the space. It's not that hard to find them. And see what they say. As I mentioned earlier, it's unlikely that you send someone a product and they call you and they're going, this was so amazing. I'm even going to order $1,000 of this. I love this product. This is so incredible. People don't do that for really anything. So it's really hard to get that response. That's not what you're looking for. You're just looking for positive feedback that suggests like, hey, this is a cool product. If you do all of the other things well, then this will probably work in gaming too. The company that I think comes to my mind as what the exception is to this type of experience rule, and I own stock in the company, full disclosure, is Tesla. Every Tesla owner I've ever met basically tries to sell me a Tesla. I don't know why that's the case. I think it's because it's a really good product, but Tesla is rare in that regard. So if your product is like that, then you probably don't have to worry about all of these things because it's just going to sell itself. Not everyone's product is going to be like that. So you'll probably have to do a little bit more and pay attention to the marketing and branding side of things a little bit more. So now that you've gotten, oh, actually, before I leave that, I want to touch on another anecdote. About a year ago, we had a player on our team, and for whatever reason, he was obsessed with Reign energy drink. This dude loved it. He would constantly talk about it. He'd drink it on stream. He was all about it. For whatever reason, he just loved it. He talked about it so much that his nickname became the Rain Man. That's a rare occurrence that someone latches onto your product like that when they're not paid to do it. It can happen, but the only way it's going to happen is if you get those samples out there. So you got to get the samples out there. And I should have mentioned this already, but do not ask for anything in return. When you send your samples out, it is a gift. You are expecting nothing back. And that's what you want, because if you go solicit feedback, you're going to get false responses. What you're looking for is the person that responds back to you without any request to do so with feedback. You get a few of those, and that's a super positive signal. You know you're on the right track. So now that you've gotten your practical feedback, you can probably start mapping out how you're going to advance in the space. Who's going to do your content? What's the angle you're going to take? Are you going to provide funny content, entertaining content? Are you going to do the helpful content? Are you going to do a mixture? It doesn't matter what you decide, but the point is to kind of get that plan together. Who's going to create this content for you? How are you going to distribute it? Are you only going to distribute it on your channels? Do you have an owned audience? Are you going to have to run paid campaigns to build your audience? At Disrupt Gaming, one of our strong value adds to brand partners is that we handle a ton of that. We've got an owned audience. We've got tons of subscribers and followers. So when we create great content, it can include a brand in it and resonate really, really well. Plus, we handle all of the content creation too. So a brand could potentially work with us and not have to do anything in terms of man hours on their end to activate in the space. We can create content for them to use on their channels. We can post it on our channels. We can do all of that, all the storytelling, all of that stuff. So the question is who are you going to get to do this stuff? Again, if you're targeting another vertical, you're not going to want to reduce that content by 50% to make room. You want to add on to what you're already doing. So if you don't have the ability to create that content, you're going to want to outsource it. As well as consider where you're going to target in space. So are you going to sponsor a league? Leagues can be good. It's a really great way to get your logo and your name out there. It's not so great on building relationships, but it's pretty good at getting your name out there, driving top of funnel traffic. So considering where you're going to do that, another example would be doing an influencer campaign. Another one would be working with a team. There's probably a few other options out there, but understanding what you're going to do. Cool. So that's kind of the general gist of it. I will post this document in the link of this video, as well as a couple other links I'm about to share with you. But I wanted to take some time and talk about some good brands to look at to understand what they're doing. So the first one I want to talk about is Chipotle. We all know what Chipotle does, what they sell. But if you look at their Twitter, yeah, they market their stuff and have direct requests to buy. But a lot of this stuff is just hilarious. It's on brand. They make jokes. They're witty. They're snarky. By the way, I think Wendy's kind of pioneered this idea. Your brand doesn't have to be like this. Your brand can be whatever voice you want. But the key here is that Chipotle is not just constantly telling people to come buy burritos. Another good one is SteelSeries. SteelSeries is an endemic brand, so they are inherently already gaming related. But if you notice, so this is actually really good. The Michael Jordan documentary just came out, and this is a post that they made on TikTok with the intro song. That is great. That's good stuff. It's organic. It's hilarious. I get value out of it, entertainment value out of it, even though it's showing their product. SteelSeries is a really, really good one to look at. Again, they've also are kind of on the snarky personality on their Twitter. You do not have to be like that. It's not mandatory, but they do provide lots of entertainment and lots of value. The final example that I want to share is an activation that G Fuel did. If you're not familiar with G Fuel, they are an energy drink company. They've only targeted gaming for the last 10 years or so. So they're very much involved in the space. But this piece of content,
the Fortnite World Cup is just days away, and for me to win, I need to be in top physical form.
Hilarious.
I've devised a strict training regimen.
Oh no, lost it. Let me go back.
To really take things to the next level. And I made a list of supplies.
So this video is a hilarious skit. It's well produced. It features the product really well. It's just really good. It's funny. It doesn't ask people to go buy G Fuel. It just has a story that's really entertaining. The brand value out of this is astronomical. This is the idea of your content when you create it and how it can have outsized ROI. They're not out here saying buy G Fuel. They made this incredible piece of content with an influencer. That's freaking hilarious. And it's great. So this is a good example to look at of what type of content you can create in the space. As you can see, this is not light production. This was probably took a couple days to do, and videographers and editors and director and lighting and all that stuff. It's not easy, but very cool, tons of brand value, and just overall a great way to do it. So that's pretty much it. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach me. I will post this presentation as well as a couple other links in the description or comments of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and talk soon. Thanks.